Hi. Flode platform is a constructor for modeling real-life processes in a digital environment. For this short demo, we created a process for a freelancer to estimate his work. Now on the screen you can see a workspace with design project of new product launch. I connect the pre-filled information to the project cost monitor. And the monitor will show me the budget for this project, based on the data I entered. To show how this works, I will create a project from scratch. Let's create a new space and give it a name. I won't use a pre-filled project. I'll create a new one. Let's say I have a new project and I need to estimate it for a client. I will create a float of this project. Suppose it will be a logo design. The status of the project is estimate. I figured it would take 5 days of work. 6 working hours a day, that is 30 hours. This is usually how projects are evaluated based on the hours that need to be spent on work. But not all projects are the same. So I will rate this project based on its difficulty. It's not a difficult project, so I'll rate it at 2. I'll rate the project by the amount of bureaucracy and paperwork that needs to be done for this client. Let's say it's not the easiest client, and I'll rate the amount of paperwork at level 5. The level of urgency isn't very high, so I'll give it a 3. The client is asking for it to be done quickly, but I'm not going to shift timing of all my other ongoing projects. I have worked with this client before, so there are no unpredictable risks here, it's all clear to me. My interest in this project is standard, I'll just leave it at 0 by default. I assume that I can add this work to my portfolio. But I do these types of logos quite often, so my interest in the project is completely standard. It will also cost 7% in taxes for the client. I'll enter that value here. And I will save the float of the project. I will then create a float with my rates so I can evaluate the project. For example, let's name this float my basic rates. The currency in which I work, in this particular case, is US dollars. And the cost of my hourly rate is $50 excluding taxes. I'll save those changes. So, I have a project float and my base rates float. I'll connect the two floats so that the data from the base rates goes into the project. And now, to see how much it's going to cost, I'll create a project cost monitor. I connect the project to the monitor. And the float shows that it costs $1,500. Plus taxes of $105. The final cost of the project will be $1,605 for the client. The text box below will describe the work to be done in words. This allows us to look at the project from the outside. So, we have almost estimated the project. But the individuality of the project is not taken into account here. Not all projects are the same. Obviously, if the project is difficult to do, it should cost more. If the project is urgent, it may also cost more. To take these features into account when estimating, I need to fill in the base rates float to see how the cost changes as the project parameters change. An extra fee for difficulty. I'll put 10% because I want the most hard-to-do project to cost twice as much as a regular job. That is, if I estimate the difficulty of the project here at level 10, it will multiply each step of the project by 10%, and the cost will double for the most difficult project. Same goes for urgency of work. I'll put a 10% change step for extra for urgency charge, because if I have to shift all my projects, and do something urgently for a client, it will cost my client twice as much. If the urgency doesn't change much, it will increase the entire project cost by 10%, or 20, or 30% depending on how I estimate the project. An extra fee for bureaucracy and paperwork. Let's say 3%. So the most bureaucratic project will add 30% to the cost. And I also estimate unpredictable risks. Risks that can arise, for example, when you work with a client whom you can expect anything from. Or when you're working with a new client and so far you have no idea what to expect. It can also factor in non-payment risks, extra work risks, and other unknown factors. I'll put 2% here, and each step of assessing unpredictable risks will increase the cost by 2%. For huge corporate clients and their complex projects, I will put a markup of 4%. This parameter has only two states: either a client is enterprise or not. And in the case of working with an enterprise client, the project budget will increase by 4%. If the project is interesting, I am willing to give it some kind of discount. In increments of, say, 3%. That is the most interesting project for me, which I can proudly add to my portfolio, which will allow me to reach new customers and new markets. Will receive a 30% discount, in case I estimate my interest at level 10. And vice versa, if I have no interest at all, I will have to look for additional motivation. Now I will save the changes and you can see that the price of the project has changed. This contains a 30% extra fee for urgency, a 20% extra fee for complexity, and a 15% extra fee for paperwork project document support. So you can estimate a project more objectively, to see how much it should cost. If cost seems strange to you, and you want to increase or decrease it for the client, but you do not want to change your basic rates or project parameters, there is a field where you can manually enter any discount or extra fee to the final cost. For example, I think it's too expensive and I just give a 20% discount to the client, and the price is automatically recalculated. So we estimated the budget for the project. The estimate is based on your personal preferences and your rates that you filled out. But it also takes into account the specifics of the project. It doesn't let emotions and doubts interfere with the process. This gives you a more objective cost. If you have any questions, something doesn't work as expected, or you'd like to give us feedback, please drop us a message in chat. We will do our best to respond and resolve your issue as soon as possible. That's all for now. Bye.